with Paul Daner, Mark Shalafoo, from listener questions to some running gags. Insider stories, ambush light, that dad life and respect for flags. Kick off the weekend, alright? It's the Growler Friday Show, it's Dey Light.
All right, welcome into the latest edition of Dey Light. Paul Daner Jr., Mark Shalafoo here with you on a Friday. Happy weekend, everybody. How we doing, Mark?
I'm doing great. I'm excited to see who your predictions can curse next, now that the Ravens have fallen. I feel like maybe you should start predicting for like the economy to tank or things to get really bad out there, just to kind of give America that boost that it needs right now.
I understand. I still think I was right. And this is my philosophy on all of these like betting tips or whatever. Like they shouldn't have lost that game. They had no business losing that game. They were the better team. They moved the ball up and down the field. They just had stupid turnovers. They dropped a 2-point conversion. Like, I mean, literally just dropped the ball 3 times. Just dropped it for no apparent reason. And then they end up losing by 2 points. In my opinion, I was right. It was just stupid luck that went against me. So I'm not going to apologize for my thought that the Ravens were going to make their run all the way to the Super Bowl.
Here's what I'm concerned about, that some of these fan bases, the New York Jets fans, the Ravens fans, the Miles Murphy fans, are all going to start to connect some of these dots about this curse of your predictions. And they're going to come for you, and we can't have that. So,
I just feel like more time needs to be spent focusing on the predictions I've gotten right and less on hammering home the ones that have gone sideways. Okay, that's all I'm saying. And I don't have any of that list right in front of me right now, so don't ask.
You need to have your championship weekend flag flying. We look forward, not backward.
That's right. I do. I have the football tailgate flag up. From last weekend. From Saturday, Sunday, Monday with the national championship game, championship weekend. This weekend, I have the football tailgate party flag up to help. Still trying to bridge the gap to Valentine's Day at this point.
Yeah, you were limping along at this point.
Yeah, no, it's a tough spot in the calendar. The snow flag came down once that started melting, but we've shifted. But it won't be long. We're going to have to give in. And Valentine's Day has a longer run than you think it should. I'll say that much. In the flag community, that's all. I'm
sure it's a point of contention among you flagsters too, but
it is. There's a lot of people that are not Valentine's Day flag people. They don't view it as a multi-week experience. It should just be kind of a one day off. And I understand that. But around our house, pink, very prominent with a house full of girls. It gets a lot of run here, and so we reflect that with our flags.
Sorry to you dorks in the flag community that don't have any love in your life and don't want to celebrate Valentine's Day. Keep flying your sad solo flags.
There's a lot of us dorks in the flag community, though. I'll say that much. It's not the coolest group. Not the coolest group. What's your favorite story this week?
Well, I mean, I guess we should just jump right into it. We've got our defensive coordinator. I need to know what the next big thing I've got to focus on here, because we're in that time now where there's a lot of things that seem important online for like a day and they're nothing, right?
Yeah.
And then, there's some deadlines that are coming up. Maybe that's what has got to be the next area of focus. This whole stadium email thing, I'm sure that's on your radar with the, all those emails back and forth that did not make certain people look great. Is that something that we need to worry about or even think about, or is that another like nothing thing?
Well, I don't think it's at the point that you need to worry about it right now. Here's my thought on that whole situation. One, I mean, buckle up. Okay, we are just beginning with that whole world. Okay, there is plenty of that's going to go on in terms of this negotiation battle, mudslinging. Like this is going to go on for a while. Like if you were cool. like this isn't even an appetizer, right? Like some people would tell here these email. This is the appetizer to the main course. No, this is not an appetizer. You just walked in the door. You're standing at the hostess stand in line. You haven't even told them your name yet. Okay, that's where we're at in this process. This isn't even the food. You haven't even got into serving the steak. That's way down the line. You're not even thinking about that yet. You're just trying to find a place that you can sit down and make sure they've got your reservation. That's where we're at in the process of this. It's only just beginning. And you're already walking in like, ooh, it's angry in here, right? Like there's a lot. There's
Yeah,
a
that
lot
table doesn't
happening.
look happy over there. My
No,
buzzer
there's a
hasn't even
lot.
gone off yet, and that waitress just quit mid-shift. What is happening?
Yeah, it's walking into a dysfunctional restaurant and you're just at the hostess stand, except you can't leave. You have to go through with this meal. It's the only way you can really eat. Unless at some point the whole staff and the chef just walk out. That's like the team moving. But I don't think we're going to that. Right now, it's just a surly restaurant.
That's fun. That's so exciting to look forward to all of that. Well, since that's ongoing, then I'm going to just choose not to think about it, not get too wrapped up into any of that stuff. What is the next biggest thing? Is it, back to T. Higgins and what the decision is there? Or should I start hoping for the early Jamar extension?
We go right to T, Jamar, Joe Burrow. I mean, T is them figuring all of that stuff out is really the next thing that we're gonna turn to, because you've got the franchise tag deadline in early March. You have free agency right after that. The whole T. Higgins thing has to get figured out by then. So they got to figure out what's going to go on there. And Jamar is kind of connected to T, and Joe's kind of connected to both of them. If he's going to actually do a restructure, they got to figure out what all that looks like. So yeah, that's, I think, where it turns to. And you know where you turn to when that happens?
Where?
Mock off season is here next week.
Really?
Mock off season spreadsheet.
Huge.
I've finally got it completed. It's been exhausting. I feel like I've done my taxes every day for a week and a half now. But the spreadsheet is complete, and it's just a matter of coming out next week. We have Al Golden press conference on Monday, so we'll have one more round. It's the gift that keeps on giving, Mark, like in case it doesn't feel like it's gone on forever, on Monday. And then after that, we shift ahead and mock off season will be here. Your spreadsheets will be here. Everyone prepare yourself. And so then we fully dive into all the roster fun.
I guess the first domino has fallen with Cam Grandy, and that was the biggest offseason move for some. So now everything else can fall into place.
Yep, Cam Grandy. You don't have to worry about him on the sheet. That's locked in. So you've got that good to go right now. But yeah, that'll be next week. We'll dive into that. I expect you to take your shot at it, and
I'll take my shot at the spreadsheet. We'll see what we come up with.
Criticism for any of the decisions that you make as well.
What is your favorite story of the week?
I'm really enjoying watching the coaching carousel spin out of control. That was wild. It's spinning a touch too fast. My wife and I have a line on carousels. You never feel like they always go faster than you think they should. Like a little, like some of them. Geez, there's actually one outside of the San Diego Zoo. There is a big park outside of the San Diego. We were on vacation there, and there was a carousel. And we ended up on this carousel, and it was really fast. And it was like, this thing goes faster than anybody should be going on a carousel. This is far too fast. And that's kind of the way I feel like the coaching carousel started spinning over the last few days. The Liam Cohen thing. So Liam Cohen looks like he's going to be the head coach of the Jacksonville Jaguars, but not after he was like interviewed and then essentially turned down the job or wasn't going to take the job. Mostly it looked like nobody wanted the job because Trent Baalke was still the GM, and nobody understood why that was the case. How is he still around? He's known as just the worst GM in the league who's failing up. How did that happen? And then all of a sudden, Trent Baalke's fired. Liam Cohen's back in it. And Tampa Bay's like, yeah, but we're going to make you the highest paid coordinator in football. And then Liam Cohen's like, yeah, I haven't signed that yet. Okay, but I won't take a second interview. But then says, my kid's sick, and so he's not answering any calls. He just ghosts the Bucs. So he goes and secretly tries to take this second interview with the Jags, and then the Jags are like, we're going to give you Ben Johnson money, which is insane that that's even a thing that already exists. And now he's the head coach of the Jaguars. unbelievable how that has spun. And then the whole Ben Johnson was his own thing, the like hunt for him. And now you start these other jobs, and then it's just going to be like Brian Schottenheimer with the most uninspiring hire potentially in Dallas. Mike McCarthy's hanging out there, going to maybe get it's just everything has kind of gone a little bit out of control. But the Cohen situation is fascinating to me. Here's my question to you, Mark. Would you use a sick child, real or not, as an excuse to ghost your employer in a high pressure situation?
Absolutely. That's why you have kids. That's the ultimate trump card to play, where people can't ask about it, really dig too much. You're like, oh, I really wanted to go hang out with you guys this weekend, but I got the kid. That's sorry. I really wanted to be there to help you move up 3 flights of stairs out of your crappy apartment, but my kid has a cold, so I got to stay home. Sorry about that. Yeah, of course that's the excuse. Like, why else have kids, you know?
Well,
that's it. It's just a get out of obligations free card.
Yeah, it is. It is not free. But a card nonetheless.
I mean, it worked out, didn't it? That's a nice little trick to play, and he got Ben Johnson money out of using the sick kid trick.
He did. No, I think it's worth it. I don't think he has a ton of friends in Tampa. I'm very excited to watch the Jags play the Bucs whenever that happens again. And his reputation wasn't exactly helped as somebody who's gone to a different job basically every single year, including back and forth to the same place. But what does he care? It worked. He made his way up the ladder. Why do job jumpers jump? To eventually get Ben Johnson money. That's why. So good for him. Here's the problem, though. This is why I wanted to start talking about this here. There's potential shrapnel here. Because
wait, what shrapnel?
Bengals shrapnel.
Oh no!
This whole situation, and that is the Tampa Bay Bucs offensive coordinator job being open, and one that they were apparently willing to pay a lot of money to. Dan Pitcher was a top candidate. In fact, many thought he was going to get that job a couple of years ago in Tampa. They could come for him again. I don't know that he can leave. There could be a block involved because it'd be a lateral move. But it is a play calling offensive coordinator gig that has churned out the last 2 offensive coordinators into head coaching gigs, Dave Canales in Carolina and now Liam Cohen in Jacksonville down there. So an interesting spot. They may come calling. They may come calling for Dan Pitcher and seeing if there's a way to make that happen, which would be very interesting.
I would like to change my previous answer and say that it is disgraceful to use a sick child to get out of that. Like, that is not a good precedent to set for your family, to all of those young fans watching you. He should have turned this job down, gone back to Tampa Bay, kept that shrapnel away from my team in this offseason. I don't want to lose a guy that helped put together one of the best offenses in the NFL. That's not what we need.
No, you do not want to lose Dan Pitcher. Not at this point. That's for sure. That'd be terrible.
I don't understand the move though. Like, the
move is look. I mean, let's say theoretically, if he could have gotten that job 2 years ago, he'd be entering his 2nd year as a head coach somewhere, right? Instead, stayed here, play with Burrow, and hey, that seemed like a slam dunk correct decision. Never leave Joe Burrow, right? I mean, that there's no reason to do that. But for whatever reason, breathing life into Baker Mayfield by owners is viewed as the proof that you are worthy of a head coach job. And Pitch didn't get any interviews this cycle, which was really surprising for me, actually. That just shows that people just don't pay attention to the right things. And also, you just don't ever get enough credit for coaching Joe Burrow. Like, it takes all the credit away from that. You basically did nothing if Joe Burrow was the quarterback. We've seen that with Brian Callahan. It took him forever to get to where he didn't get his job until Burrow got hurt and Jake Browning still played good. And they're like, oh, maybe that guy is good, right? It became, that's where the credit came. And I think there's safety in having the franchise quarterback, and your offense is going to stay good and you'll be in the conversation, but it doesn't always get you a job. I mean, is Joe Brady going to get a job right now for what he's done in Buffalo and help with Josh Allen and their offense this year? I mean, he's at least been in the interview cycle, but he hasn't exactly been a top candidate. Maybe he ends up getting the gig in New Orleans or something, but like, you see this a lot where a lot of these guys that are with these franchise quarterbacks don't necessarily get enough credit, and that's definitely been the case here in Cincinnati. So it's interesting. It's an interesting spot to be in. I still think they're one playoff run away from getting certainly more interviews, but yeah, it's an interesting thought process that Burrow can some ways be hindering you because you don't get any credit.
Yeah, I don't quite understand it either because like it was an impressive job, Burrow coming off the injury. The offense looked even better than it has in the past. I mean, that's a pretty strong endorsement to your ability. And also like the hard knock stuff, he always came off looking pretty well in any of that exposure. So for people that might not have been as familiar with his demeanor or whatever, like I would have thought all of that would have translated into at least an interview or two along the way. But not that all these teams are the smartest anyway. You know, they're
not
fixated on their guy, and then that's it.
No, I mean, you just. I think that there's a lot of closed-mindedness. I mean, and not really understanding what's going on in the league, and doing the research on who could actually be good. There's a lot of luck involved in circumstantial nature to all of this stuff, and. That's why, when you have an opportunity to get one, you just say, hey, my kid's sick and I'm going to ghost these people for a day because it may be the only chance to really make it happen. Because if Liam Cohen didn't get that job and he came back next year and Baker Mayfield sucked or they regressed for any number of reasons, offensive line injuries or whatever, he may never get a head coaching job. So you do what you got to do.
I mean, Lou Anarumo went from like a head coach candidate and somebody that people were excited about to a few years later fired. Yeah, so that is a short opportunity window for some of these guys.
Yep, it really is. You know what other big news we have this week, Mark?
What's that?
Billy Joel and Rod Stewart coming to Paycor. Billy Joel. First of all, I like Billy Joel.
Yeah,
I'm a Billy Joel fan. I mean, I'm bald. I'm 45, I'm a white guy. Like you like Billy Joel. Like that's just kind of that's who we are. But the Billy Joel and Rod Stewart coming out was a little less than I think maybe we thought it might be. They were having a whole press conference down at Paycor. They brought out they played the Dan Horde and the Dave Lapham and the Anthony Munoz card. They called Munoz out, and I'm thinking like, whoa, they've got a commissioner there. Denise Driehaus was there. Elizabeth Blackburn was there. I'm like, man, they didn't do a press conference for Taylor Swift, I don't think. Like, what's bigger? Who's it going to be?
Yeah. And
so then it's like, it's Billy Joel and Rod Stewart. Billy Joel played JBP 3 years ago. And this is from a guy who likes Billy Joel, right? And I'm like, oh, yeah, man, it's kind of a letdown when you feel like the buildup felt significant.
Yeah, you would think that once they pull all that royalty together, that they were announcing a concert with Jimmy Buffett, bringing him back from the dead. That's the level of excitement that would have warranted all these, big people coming out, a big Cincinnati event, a lot of parrot heads in Cincinnati, like the return of Jimmy Buffett from the dead. That's kind of what I expected with that level of fanfare.
Yeah.
Not Billy Joel and Rod Stewart.
Yeah, the Munoz lever means you're bringing somebody back from the dead. That's what it means when you.
If you're going to start using it for Billy Joel, then go ahead and start using it for the TV sale when that happens again. Like have him announce that we're selling more $20 flat screens.
I'm ready. I'm ready for more TV sale. No doubt about that. We have a bunch of questions that we need to get to. I think we should just kind of hop right in, should we not?
We should. As always, send those questions to the growlerpodcast@gmail.com. Growl Pals came strong again. We can't get to all of them, but we have a lot of great ones. And Michael's kicking us off here. He says he loves the show, appreciates the immense entertainment and information both of you provide. He has two very different questions concerning the extension or new contracts for eligible players on the roster, like T, Jamar, Trey, etc. Can we extend any of them now in the current league year? And are there any financial advantages for the Bengals to do that, like spreading bonuses over an additional year or spending against this year's cap?
No, I mean, yes, they can do all of this stuff right now, but no, there's no advantages to doing it now versus after the league year flips over. It's all going to be on 2025 here, and there's no like post dating that money. So you're good. You're good on getting those things done. They need to get them done quickly, but no, it doesn't. The 2025 cap is not going to be affected by the fact if they do it tomorrow versus like if they did it with Jamar in June. I mean, there's some technical things that if you get into like if there were cuts involved, like that's where post June 1 cuts are part of things and like that. We talk about that sometimes, but it's not like that with these extensions.
All right, his second question, maybe more important. He can't help but wonder when he was watching the national championship game if Paul is hoping for the Bengals to draft Carnell Tate from Ohio State when he enters the draft in a few years so he can bring back Year of the Tater.
Oh, wow. Talk about showing that you're a real one, Michael.
Yeah, I have no idea what that means.
That's allegiance. Yeah, that predates you for sure. Year of the Tater. That goes all the way back to Brandon Tate. When I think was it Jay Gruden? No. Yeah, I think it was Jay Gruden used to call him Tater. And and it was like there was this time early in the season where Brandon Tate was going to be like the third receiver, and he had a couple of big games, and we dubbed it Year the Tater. And it was like, I mean, you are showing some real way back machine. Shout out to Michael for remembering Year the Tater. It has shown up every now and again. Anytime somebody named Tate shows up, there's inevitably going to be a Year the Tater drop. So I'm for it. If that gag can continue on over a decade later, which is sad to show me how long I've been around here in podcasting, but yeah, I'm all for it. Shout out to that drop there. I love that.
You got to play the hits, and if Year of the Tater is your thing, you know you got to go.
I love it. It is one of my favorites. I do.
What I like about this show, and especially the offseason, is we kind of bounce around from very serious topics, very good questions, to a little bit more offbeat things, like this one from Alex. Which current Bengal do you think would be best suited to follow in the footsteps of Flying Brian Pillman and turn to pro wrestling? I personally think Jermaine Pratt has the right physique and charisma to be a decent mid-card heel. Ted Karras could cut a killer promo, but he says his money is on Amarius Mims. The size, athleticism, and build are freakish. He says, I don't know about the promo ability, but pair him with like a Jim Cornette, out of retirement. You've got a WWE champion on your hands. So which of these current Bengals do you think would be good pro wrestlers?
Well, Alex, I appreciate the creativity of the question. First of all, I'm here for this. Now, I think you're right. I think Jermaine Pratt is Jermaine Pratt, who used to play ping pong in nothing but sweatpants. Like it looked like he was like ready to go do kung fu. He is. He's ripped. He's intense. Whatever. He's got that clip of him out there where he's standing on the sidelines just yelling "kill." I always think about that clip that was famous from that run back in 2021. You can see it. You can see Jermaine Pratt certainly in that role.
Like a good finisher for Jermaine Pratt would be like he goes to run and tackle the guy, but he misses and hits the ring post and knocks himself out, and that's how the other guy gets the win. That would be like his thing. He dominates until he messes up.
Yeah, until he messes up at the end. Yeah, that's how he constantly loses the chance at belts. Yeah, I love that. I also think Amarius Mims is a good idea. He would have to me. He's kind of a gentle giant, like just knowing his personality a little bit. He's kind of soft and warm hearted type guy. You know what I mean? Like he's a really nice guy. His persona is not like his physique. He's not an intimidating presence necessarily like that. That said, I think he could go out there as like an Andre the Giant. I mean, I just think he's basically new age Andre the Giant. It's just the moment he walks in the building, everyone just shakes. So I'm with you on that. I think Hayden Hurst would have been great. Like super intense, had the red hair thing he could play off of. Like Hayden Hurst screamed like a absolute just maniac out there that you get excited when he comes out there. Drew Sample could have been one of those guys. If in old school wrestling, they used to have Saturday morning wrestling. And there was always the guy like mid-show that would come out, and his name was something like Drew Sample or like, Bill Johnson, and he'd just have the singlet on and would just wrestle another guy in a singlet, and that would just fill time until like Brutus the Barber Beefcake could like do his barbershop promo after that. That'd be the only thing on, but you had to have the fillers. You know,
Yeah.
I think that's him. I think Drew Sample could be that guy, you know,
Those
Mr.
guys that have to
Nondescript.
like change their names every other week because they're trying
Yeah.
to find a gimmick or a role. So maybe he is Drew Sample one week, Bill Johnson the next, as they're trying to get him to latch on somewhere. I could see that for sure. I
Yeah.
think personally, Mike Hilton, I think him being like a tiny guy, he big hits from him. He can talk a little bit. He's got that luchador energy. Like you could throw him in the ring and you know, let him fly around for a while. Trey Hendrickson, you get Blackout Trey in there. Like
Yeah,
you
I
feed
think
off that
Blackout
energy.
Trey, you're right. Blackout Trey, I think, is probably the number one. I mean, where it's just an absolute maniac. That's his nickname. He wears all black. Like it all
Yeah.
kind of like comes together, doesn't it?
You know, some eye black, some face paint, whatever he wants to do, like it's going to look intimidating in the ring. He's going to freak out. And here's the only problem with that is like the guy he's working with probably isn't going to love it because he's like, I don't know if this guy's taking this seriously. He seems most likely to actually land a real punch on somebody because he just does go insane. But I think it'd be fun for us to watch.
Yeah.
Orlando Brown would be on my list too, just because of the size and because he is kind of funny. I think that there is potential for him.
Yeah, no, I'm with you. I'm with you on
Him,
that. Yeah, he makes sense. I could see that. He's almost too nice though. You know what I mean? He's too personable. He's a little too personable. You got to have that kind of mean and slightly unhinged, which is why Blackout Trey certainly stands out to me. Good question.
Great question. We're going to go next to Noah from Connecticut. He says, it's the time of year where you scroll through Facebook and see coaching hires, mock drafts, Taylor Swift game day outfits, and clown emoji replies. What a weird and fun offseason this could be. Run, pass, or boot the following. Orlando Brown Jr. starts a podcast, Joe Burrow starts a fashion line, or Alex Kappa becomes a real estate agent with Stanyo.
I love that idea. I think I love Stanyo standing next to Alex Kappa. I just that visual to me is great when they like you walk in to do your closing and here comes those two together. Like I'm here for it.
Dream team.
But I'm gonna boot that. I think Alex Kappa might be more likely to be like the COO of Cincy Hat for Ted Karras. Yeah, I feel like he just kind of like works for Ted, you know, on the side so they can keep hanging out more than anything. But I would say I think Orlando starting a podcast would absolutely. I feel like he's close to doing that. He's ready to do that. There's no microphone that he hasn't loved hopping in front of. He clearly wants to do that afterwards. He feels ready for that. Burrow fashion line, I would pass on that. I'd have that next. That's possible. That's certainly in the realm. You got to think that's on his table right now. Of all the offers, he's got like the massive long table, like almost the comically long one in like cartoons, and it's got nothing but like, here are your endorsement opportunities. Let's pick which ones you want. Fashion line's on there. It's on there.
Yeah, doesn't he employ a model on his payroll? Like that could work out. But also, he's got the high school friend though that designs clothes, and I don't know that you could compete with that. Like you're going to put that guy out of business if you start your own thing.
No, they do it together. I think
Yeah,
they go together. You know what I mean? That's the deal. They start their own.
I kind of would rather see him do that than Orlando Brown start a podcast because then that's competition for us. Unless we can get him like under the Growler banner or get him like
there
a
we go
offshoot.
An Orlando Brown show, the Orlando Brown show presented by the Growler.
Yeah, and then we can help him out and get him some Stanios for his show and just kind of like. That way we're not in direct competition. Because I know the stuff with New Heights has not been great for either show. That animosity between us has been something that weighs heavy on their mind.
It's hurt them. It's hurt them a lot.
It's kept them up at nights and us too. So yeah. Another good question though, Noah. Thank you for sending that in. Also recommend getting off Facebook. That's not great for you. Next question. Paul and Mark, you guys are all the best in a weekly staple. Man, these playoffs are frustrating, and I feel like they're further spotlighting all of the Bengals' misgivings. Aside from Mahomes flopping, most frustrating from this weekend is the following. Mekhi Becton and T.R. Tart have had really productive seasons for the Eagles and Chargers with crazy low salaries. Whatever concerns the Bengals had, how in the world did neither get signed in the same world where Jermaine Burton is picked despite his red flags, Sheldon Rankins got 2 years, $24 million despite his flags, and Trent Brown with his injury history got signed? What are the principles being applied, and shouldn't this be an indictment on Duke Tobin?
Yeah, well, yes and no. There's two parts to this. One, I think the Becton thing in retrospect, it that feels like that's something that very easily could have happened. Now, did you know you probably could have thought that Trent Brown might not have gone perfectly, but still, he had come off a season where when he was in there and playing, he was an elite pass protector. He was the size, type play. He was just what you wanted if you were going to be using a first-round draft pick on it. Like he matched everything they were trying to do, and Becton was here for a reason, and you could have seen that. I don't know if Becton becomes the player he did this year if he comes to Cincinnati, though. I mean, I think Jeff Stoutland, offensive line coach in Philly, is awesome and did a great job bringing that out of him. You would have loved to have Becton there, certainly be like, hey, go ahead. You play guard now. He could have slipped right into that spot, done that for Cincinnati. I think in retrospect, yeah, you can see that, but they didn't go that direction. They went the Trent Brown direction. That blew up in their face, but I don't have a huge problem with it. Everybody had flags. Now Tart, people forget he signed in Miami and it blew up there, and he got cut in August from Miami. So he was been a problem everywhere he's gone. Okay, now the Chargers did find a way, I guess, to make it work, and good for them. But I mean, this is a guy who was like traded from a playoff team and then kicked out the door in another, and then signed by Miami, and they kicked him out in August. It's not like, kudos to the Chargers for finding a way to make it work with him, but that feels volatile at best. I still think they would have loved to have had what LA got from him, but I still think there were a lot of landmines to jump through to make that happen. So I don't totally hate on them for the Tart thing.
I mean, even with Becton, like on paper, it would be great. Yeah, he takes over one of those weak guard spots. That's swell. But if you sign Becton instead of Brown, like he's probably just playing ahead of Mims for those first few weeks. And then when do they kick him inside? I mean, there's still a lot of questions around that if it would have played out the same.
I mean, they needed to get somebody, and they all had flags that you were going to be concerned about. That's my point. And I think that Trent Brown being the guy who could hold down and pass protect, and you could be confident in that as his number one skill, does make sense. Obviously, he had plenty of other things that were problematic, and he gets hurt and all of that. But yeah, no, I mean, congrats to Mekhi Becton for going out and playing well in Philly, and it's going to make him a lot of money. He's a free agent again this offseason. We'll see if he ends up back on the Bengals radar.
This next question is from Paul C. He says, I'm actually loving all of the offseason coverage so far. I don't know if I love the actually in there. That seems a little off-putting. Like, oh, I'm actually liking this coverage you're doing. He says, I'm happy, grateful to get all this content for free. Should we be charging? That's a question we'll talk off air about charging specifically just to this guy. He says he has to admit that he really enjoys your podcast with Charlie. It's so full of expertise and deep analysis. He almost feels guilty listening to it for free. It's something I should really be paying for. Thank you for all the hard work and information. Livens up my dog walks when I'm strolling along looking like a Bengals full kit wanker. Seeing as how the Bengals use a lot of quick hit passes, they frequently end up in 3rd and short. They are dreadful in 3rd and 4th and short. Watching the playoffs, whether it's Henry or Andrews, LOL, of course, whatever the Eagles do in that situation or the Bills do you have any opinions on what the Bengals can do to improve their short yardage offense? Obviously, the guards get no push, and that's a huge part of it. But what can they do?
Yeah, no, I like this. First of all, a couple things. I'm with you. I think we just charge Paul C. That's it. And like, look, if you want that, you said you feel guilty. I don't want you to feel guilty. We're doing this for you, right? So we'll just charge Paul C.
Send him an invoice.
Oh yeah, that's it. And then also, I did hear I had some enjoyment from our Bengals UK fans who really enjoyed our discussion of full kit wanker. We forget how differently that word hits over on that side of the pond compared to how it hits over here. So I think they were in extreme enjoyment. So shout out to our friends over in England and elsewhere in Europe for any enjoyment that happened from that. The 3rd and 4th and short thing. So here's a few numbers. I got some stats for you on this. I have looked into this, as you might know, and I'm sure there's going to be a dive this offseason that I'll fully do into it. Success percentage on 3rd and 4th and short the last 2 years. The Bengals they're right in the middle. They're 62%, which is 21st They're right at 15th% in terms of first down conversion percentage on those. So they're okay. They're very much middle of the pack in general. Now, there's a few dynamics to what they do. Their percentage of times that they run the ball on third and fourth and short, as you might imagine, is not high. But yes, they are dead last in how much they run it on third and fourth and short. The Baltimore Ravens run it in those situations 90% of the time. Chargers 84, Eagles 79%. What percentage of the time would you bet that the Bengals run the ball?
In that scenario, 53%.
32% of the time. The next lowest is the New York Jets at 42% of the time. So it goes from 90% for the Ravens. 31st is the Jets at 42%. The Bengals run it 32% of the time. Now, you might say, of course, always put the ball in the hands of Joe Burrow. He's going to complete everything. And you're correct in saying that. However, third down conversion percentage, when per first downs per attempt, they again find themselves in the middle of the pack. In terms of when they do decide to throw it, they're kind of middle of the pack. But when they run it, they're actually in the top 10, believe it or not. So it's like perhaps they should be willing to run it more often, something that they haven't really been willing to do. Now, how much of their success percentage when running it is the surprise when a defense is like, what? Did they actually run it on 3rd and 2 or 3rd and 1? That never happens.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe that is part of it, but I do think a little bit more dedication to being, maybe 28th in run percentage and make it a little closer to a 50-50 type deal when you're sitting there might be a way to get those numbers up when they have had success running it. I think, leaning into that, maybe it is a big back who's Chase Brown was okay between the tackles. He got some tough yards for you, but whatever that is, I do think that they need to look at that and look at ability to create some run schemes that can be more effective in short yardage. And maybe it's when they go in and fix this guard problem, maybe it is some guys that have a little more ability to move the pile and create some space for them when everybody knows it's coming on the ground.
Yeah. Here's our next question. This is we're going to stay with the offensive line a little bit here. This is from Chris, the biggest growl pal in Rhode Island. And he also got a shout out on Arby's after talking with you at the Tampa airport 2 years ago. That really
remember this.
Something. He loves the pod, greatly appreciates the dad life segment since he's in a similar phase in life, juggling work, kids, coaching youth sports, and the Bengals obsession. He said, last year on the sidelines of a flag football game in our quaint New England town, I heard one of the coaches of an 8-and-under flag team quizzing his team pregame. Who can tell me what the inside receiver does on a smash concept? Not sure if any of the parents even know the answer to this, let alone 7- and 8-year-olds. So I ask around, who is this guy drilling these route concepts? Find out it's now the former Patriots offensive assistant coach and newly hired Bengals assistant offensive line coach, Mike McCarthy.
Wow.
I do not know him personally, but it seems like the kind of guy who would be our brethren.
Wow.
Great story.
What a nugget. That's unbelievable. And first of all, look, teach them the right way from the very beginning. You need to know about it. Are you serious about football? You need to know about the smash concept. I love the intensity. I love that he's out there coaching. He's keeping them all over it. It's going to be the first thing whenever I meet Mike McCarthy, whenever this happens, it's going to be the first thing that I bring up is first of all, how'd that team do? Did they struggle with, was it too complex? Did you need to simplify mid-season when they couldn't quite pick up the smash concept? I'm curious, but I love this. Wow, what a great story. Thanks, Chris.
I like anytime you get too intense as a youth sports coach, you can know it. I gave my team a speech about adversity and how it's our friend because anyone that's done something great had to overcome adversity, and we should seek out adversity because behind adversity is opportunity. It's a speech that I stole from Lou Holtz years ago, delivered it to 7- and 8-year-old girls playing soccer, and they could not have cared less. They were like, can we get our popsicles? We have no idea what these words even mean. Adversity. No, just give us our snacks. Let us get out of here.
No, the only adversity was you giving them that speech instead of just giving them the popsicles, and that wasn't an opportunity. It was just an annoyance.
I pull out the clipboard and their eyes just glaze over. They don't want strategy.
You're like, all right, let's talk Smash concepts.
Our next question, Paul and Mark, you guys do a tremendous job and are the perfect pair to ponder this. It's now become very obvious to players and fans that there is a definite Kansas City Chiefs bias across the league. When coincidences happen over and over, they are no longer coincidences. It's like aliens seen flying around the sky. Not saying there's gangsters threatening the refs' families in dark rooms with guns, but the media marketing Swiftie effect is real. Now we see Ron Torbert is chosen for Super Bowl 59 as the ref. Are you kidding? Which now can only mean the way the league is going to soften the masses is to have an obvious terrible call go against Kansas City, costing them the three-peat so they can say, see, this was not a thing, and hope that everyone just follows along with the company line. What are your thoughts on the refs and the Kansas City bias that is now coming to light?
Are we speaking about the evil Ron Torbert? I mean, look, anytime we can speak about Ron Torbert, we're going to do it here on this show. I first of all, the whole Chiefs bias thing has gained some steam after last week, understandably so. I think it's slightly overblown, certainly by Cincinnati fans who have been victimized by it. But look, it's the same way that Jordan got calls. I feel like Patrick Mahomes gets calls. The Chiefs also, like, they win a lot because partially they don't make so many of the mistakes that kill them in the playoffs. I think some of it is the refs not calling it. Also, some of it is them just not doing it. They don't make the dumb mistakes that hurt them. And a lot of other teams that they play do. And I think that sort of goes together with this. And when you win a lot, you know what happens when you win a lot? The team that you beat didn't like a call along the way. Okay, but people don't talk about the calls that go against the Chiefs because they won. The only teams that complain about the calls are the ones that lose because they're the ones that matter, and they see that it would have been different if it weren't for that call. And the Chiefs always win, and so the losing team is always pointing out these calls, and there always are some. And typically, though, there are calls that go the other way too. I think it's a combination of all of that. Yes, it's insane that Mahomes gets the calls and Burrow doesn't get any calls. Like we've talked about a bunch on here. I don't understand how Burrow does not get more calls or better treatment, shall we say, star treatment, if you will, considering what we've seen happen to him over the years. But I think it's a little overblown. Ron Torbert, I think, is just a bad official. And there's a lot of them. I don't understand why he keeps ending up in some of these big games. But every game that I watch from Ron Torbert, you just wait for it to happen. So I think that to me is the wide-ranging sort of answer to your.
Yeah, I think there's probably a lot of sense in that it's just bad officiating, really, is what it is across the board. And you're going to see more of that when, it keeps adding up that it seems to benefit the Chiefs. I will say the other part of this is Mahomes is asking for these calls way more than Joe Burrow is with his whining, his flopping. That turns off a lot of fans too, when they see the replay of him just flailing as he gets touched once or anywhere near the sideline. I mean, that's just they're definitely under the magnifying glass at this point. I do feel like kind of going along with this email, it does seem like the tables have to turn a little bit. So I wonder if this narrative is going to break through a little bit on some level when there's going to be one of these 50-50 calls that they normally would have thrown the flag on, that we see them conspicuously hold that flag just to try and quash some of this.
Let me tell you something. There's going to be a terrible call on Sunday in Arrowhead that is going to go a long way to deciding this game, just because it's going to be. That's because every big NFL game seems to go that way. And Ron Torbert's games especially do. So it's just a matter of what it's going to be and who it's going to go against.
We've got another Chiefs-related question. This one is, if you could make one trade here, what would it be? Patrick Mahomes for Joe Burrow, gross. Andy Reid for Zach Taylor, or Howie Roseman for Duke Tobin? Which one would you make? I would take Roseman and order my Super Bowl tickets.
Yeah, I mean, Howie's hard to argue against right now when you look at just especially coming off the offseason that they did. Well, they've got what? They've got a player up for offensive player of the year who he acquired, Saquon Barkley. They've got a player up for offensive rookie of the year and defensive rookie of the year who he drafted, right? He's got a player up for defensive player of the year, I think. Hold on. I saw this the other day. Vic Fangio is up for assistant coach of the year, who they brought in and hired and decided to pay the most, the highest paid defensive assistant. He's got his fingers on all of those. Howie has had a hell of a offseason and a hell of a long run. I think he's arguably one of the best in the entire game right now. So, yeah, it's hard to argue against what Howie has done, and maybe what that would be where you would start. I'm not trading Joe Burrow for anybody.
No, I don't.
Patrick
Mahomes is not even the best player on his own team.
So I'm putting. I mean, Patrick Mahomes is amazing, but I'm not trading Joe Burrow. He's perfect for the city and for everything they're doing here. So I'm leaving it there. But I think you want Howie.
The Andy Reid thing is interesting, but I don't know how much of his success is tied to like your quarterback. Would he have that same level of success with Joe Burrow? Who knows?
Probably. Yeah. I mean, Andy Reid is a great coach, but I mean, he was the guy who couldn't win the big one forever until he got matched up with Patrick Mahomes. And, great quarterbacks will always take you to the next level. He's great at making quarterbacks better, a level above what they already are. And that's an important skill too.
This next question is Corey from Mason. He says, just want to say within the past couple months, Paul, your analysis and breakdown of film has improved tremendously.
Most improved award? Can I get that?
Already and are a great reporter. Whatever you have been doing lately to improve your film study is impressive. Another tool in your belt. Well done. Look at you watching film.
No question. Just hey, here's a good thing. It's partially, although it's a little backhanded, right? It's a little bit of like, you've really improved. Like, you've never been good at this. I've actually hated when you talk about players and plays before. I've never really, like, it's been fun. Like, I really have enjoyed doing the show with Charlie where we do the film breakdown, because I've never really done that type of show. I've talked about it a lot and we've done it in spots, but to take the time to do the dives on it and talk about what you found, that's partially due to the NFL finally fixing their programming with NFL Pro and making it easy to search through and find stuff and do cut ups and all of that. Like that, we would do it before, but you couldn't cut it up as easy. It was hard to find all the stuff you wanted to find quickly. Once they did that, it's much easier to present and talk about and discuss, which we do on the show. And so I really enjoyed that. I appreciate it. I'll give NFL Pro some of the credit. They deserve it for putting together a good program that makes it a lot easier. But maybe I was terrible at it before, but we never really kind of leaned
2 months
into
ago, you were terrible at it. Apparently, is what he's. Over the past 2 months,
it's all Charlie. It's all Charlie. He's the one that's bringing it out, man. It's all him.
He's your Andy Reid. He's elevating your film study and
makes everybody better.
This is from Tyler. Last week, there was a bunch of talk about the Bengals' edge position on the podcast. Where does Cam Sample fit in, if at all, next season? Do they resign him? I feel like he was a reliable rotational piece and was a major but forgotten loss since he went down so early.
Yeah, I mean, they like him, but I don't know if he's going to be an answer. I think you could see him come back, and they'll see what he looks like coming off his injury in camp. Like they could sign him to one of these veteran minimums, come to camp, see what it looks like, see if he makes the team. If he can, if not, then that'll be that. That's probably where that ends up.
The next question is from Brian, the inventor of the Ambush Light segment. He wants to know, with the coaching changes, are coaches allowed to reach out to the players? He says, I know there's rules in place to prevent coaches from contacting players during the offseason. Love all of the different shows each week, and he wants you to take it on the road to Utah. I don't know if I would agree with that, but what's the rule on coaches contacting players?
Yeah, the PA, the union has rules against contact over this time period, but I think I think there's a, man, I don't know the specifics. I know there can't be like long conversations or talking about ball or whatever, but I think hey, congrats on the job, look forward to working with you type thing is okay. I'd have to get into the intricacies of those rules, but yeah, in general, there's no significant contact. There's no working with. There's no anything. But guys are around the building. You pass people in the building. You're not allowed. It's not like you have to walk by them and not look them in the eye or anything like that. No. So it's not that strict. But yeah, there's no real work, real contact in that regard.
All right, our next question here is from Ray. He says, in case you haven't heard, J.J. Watt is now a partial owner of a team known as Burnley FC, a soccer team. So one of these teams' goalies asked Watt about coming out of retirement for the Bengals in 2025, to which J.J. Watt agreed if the guy didn't give up a goal for the rest of the season. Long way to go, but the deal is still alive. His question regarding this: would a 36-year-old J.J. Watt, a couple years removed from the game, instantly be the team's second best rusher behind Hendrickson? And would you consider adopting Burnley into your soccer fandom through the rest of the season?
I would really love to cover J.J. Watt coming out of retirement. That sounds like something that would be a reporter's dream. So yes, I'm rooting for that. Selfishly for me, I don't know. I mean, he retired for a reason. Yeah, he probably is the second best rusher at this point.
Which doesn't say much about J.J. Watt. Let's be clear. It says more about what he's got to the
correct.
Low bar he's falling over.
No,
even
you're
2
right
years
on
out
that.
of the game.
Yeah, you're right on that. I mean, for me, selfishly, I'm here for all of this. I mean, even if he comes and fails miserably, he's obviously great with the media. He's on CBS. He wants to be out there, so he's going to be great with us. His storyline would be amazing. He's got incredible perspective. I'm here for all the J.J. Watt comes out of retirement and plays for the Bengals stuff. I mean, there's no world where this is bad for me. So selfishly, I like it. I don't know if he would change their pass rush situation, but I don't care. I would just like to talk to him about it.
You talk about bad bets. I can't imagine like how rough that would be. The physical toll of going into the NFL again after you got out, you're enjoying retirement, but you made a silly bet. Now you got to pay up and just take that physical punishment until you get injured or make it through the Super Bowl for us next year. It's going to be a tough one. I'm sure he'll regret that at times.
Yeah, well, you know, once you sit on this cushy side of the microphones, man, it's I can't imagine how easy it is to go back.
Ready for some ambush light?
Let's ambush. I'm ambushing you first.
Oh shit. Okay. What do we got?
Guess what? We've got ambush. Ambush. This one is let's see. This one's from Stan. He pointed it out to you because I said, look, I don't want to be getting ambushed all the time. I appreciate those of you that have followed that request, sending in some ambushes the other way. For you, Mark, what do you do when you're doing a show with a comedian you do not find funny? Do you lie to them and tell them they are funny? Do you force laughs during the set?
Oh, that's a great question. All right. So there's two different ways to look at this. If it's somebody that's opening for me, I will still usually watch their set so I can give them some sort of joke tags or some encouragement because that's important for younger comics coming up. Now, if it's a comedy club weekend and I'm the middle act, I will watch and it's a headliner you don't like, then yeah, I'll watch them once maybe just to see, because you can still learn from people that you don't care for or have different styles, whatever. But yeah, the other shows, I'm in the green room at that point. I'm watching TV. I'm, eating the free snacks, eating the meal from the restaurant side of the club. Yeah, you don't, I'm not sitting through 6 bad shows. And you'll give the guy the obligatory, oh, good set. That was a tight crowd. I'm not sure why I crushed and they hated you, but I think they were just kind of a tight crowd. Yeah, they were weird. They were a weird crowd. They didn't like your jokes that didn't have punchlines, but they liked mine that did. Weird. But yeah, you find ways to be polite with coworkers in that scenario without coming off like a total jerk.
Yeah, no, I appreciate that. That's well done. I like the idea of I don't know what their deal is with punchlines. That's crazy.
Yeah, they just seem to like jokes, that crowd. I don't know why they didn't like your boring stories. I don't get it.
Love it.
Glenn checks in with another ambush light question. He wants to know the over-under number of games for Miles Murphy to register his 10th career sack. He's setting the number at 69. And also, he wants to know if the diehards of the pod can be called anything other than the Prowlers. He says they should be called the 69ers. He doesn't want to be a Prowler. He wants to be a 69er.
Yeah, I mean, Glenn, that's clear. Okay, first of all, shout out Glenn, who's a regular now on the show, for answering 69 to every growler bet, every question that we have. That said, I mean, it makes sense. It makes sense. I guess, our rivals at New Heights, they have the 92 percenters. Well, I mean, it makes sense. The real hardcore ones would have that. I mean, it does appear to kind of be our demographic, sadly. I don't know if we want to promote that, but if you want to call yourself that, I'm all for it. I mean, Glenn has earned it, if anybody has.
So you're not going to denounce the 69ers. If they form on their own and select a leader as a subset of the Growler podcast listening audience, you're not going to decry it, even if you don't openly support or advocate for the 69ers.
Yeah, it's sort of like, like FC Cincinnati, there's a couple of different fan groups that form, right? And they name themselves and they have meetings and they do all their stuff, right? But they're not directly associated necessarily with the club. Like there's not, there's no like, oh, this one's for the Pride, right? Like it's not a direct association like that. So for that fact, I think that's the way it's looked at, is like, look, if you guys want to form the 69ers or call yourself that, I'm not going to stop it, but I'm not going to be, put a big flag that says the 69ers up on front of my house.
I do think you should at least consider that flag.
Yeah.
He might have
just for neighborhood reaction.
Glenn might have been the only person that didn't win the Growler bet last week. It seemed like everybody had like the correct date for the defensive coordinator announcement. A lot more winners than normal, I think, for that one.
Yeah, we're going to have to sift through that. So a lot of you probably did send in the right date of the 23rd on that one. So we will have.
What do you got for bets this weekend?
Well, for this weekend, so last weekend we did, I had some of the best bets. They did pretty good in my mind. I kind of mentioned this top of the show. Like I felt like they did better than I got credit for at the end. I was on the wrong side of that stupid safety for no reason at the end of Texas.
Bad beat. That is
the worst.
You talked about the guy that would take money to listen to your bad beat stories. That's one that's worth throwing $5 to whine about that safety for a while.
Yeah, he's like, oh, this is the 10th time I've heard this today. That guy, if he hears it. So yeah, that was technically on the wrong side of that one, but I feel like I count that as a win. I had the Commanders plus 9.5 at the Lions and the over. Those were delightful wins. I had the Rams covering at the Eagles. That was good. I already said that I basically got screwed with the Ravens. I had the Ravens at the Bills. They should have won. So I was basically right on that one, even though I lost. And I had Notre Dame plus 8.5. They really they should have covered that in my mind. Technically took an L.
You had to feel real good after they took a 10-minute opening drive to take the touchdown lead.
Yeah.
You're like, all right, here we go.
Yeah,
my
perfect.
Looking solid.
How could they lose?
And then that second quarter was something else.
That's all right. This weekend, though, I'm all dogs this weekend. The dog is in me. And I'm not just taking the points. I'm taking money lines. So Bills plus 2, give it to me. That's a plus 110 on the money line. Commanders plus 6 in Philly, plus 240. Give it to me. I feel the Eagles defense is great. There's something going on. There's some special juice with the Commanders. They got big 2021 Bengals vibes. Jaden Daniels, I think, is maybe the better quarterback. I don't like that Philly's passing game is having the trouble that they've been having. I'm Commanders. Commanders, Bills, Super Bowl is where my bet is. And the value on Commanders plus 240, I think is the best bet of the weekend. It may not be the most likely to hit, but you love getting plus 240 for something that could definitely happen.
Yeah, it feels like they're still discounting this Commanders team, and it's been making you money each step of the way. So yeah, keep rolling the dice there.
If they can go into Detroit and win the way that Detroit was playing and everything else, I mean, I don't know why you would be thinking that it's not plausible. I think plus 6 is kind of a silly line here.
Chiefs have never looked great to me, period. So I have no trouble taking the Bills there. I might even just parlay those and just really enjoy all the money coming my way on the money line parlay.
With all this new, where are you at this weekend?
Let's see. Oh, this weekend I'm in Columbus for a couple of shows with Don't Tell Comedy. There might be a couple tickets left for those Friday and Saturday. And then I've got the gymnastics meet this weekend. So that's the main reason I'm in Columbus. Next weekend's Wisconsin, that's sold out. Weekend after that is St. Louis is sold out. But February 13th, Bloomington, Indiana, I'll be at the Comedy Attic. Great little pre-Valentine's Day show there. And February 15th, back in the Cincinnati, Kentucky area at Commonwealth Sanctuary, just across the river. Great little club there. So the tickets are on sale for both of those. Get those now. And I'll be coming to North Carolina in March.
Ooh, like that. Where in North Carolina?
I'm going to Raleigh and back to Asheville.
All right, back to Asheville.
Asheville's back up on its feet. Yep, trying to get there, and so that should be fun.
That's awesome. All right, make sure you get out to see Mark. Dad Life. What do we got for Dad Life? What are you going to do for Dad Life?
Okay, so we have an email that we're going to do for Dad Life.
All right.
This is from Mike in the UK. He said he's taking his family to Disney World, Florida in October. I don't know. Yeah, okay, so that makes sense. Not Disney World, Ohio. So he's going to Disney World, Florida in October. Have you been there before? Do you have any invaluable advice? He loves the pod, blah, 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 blah. Something about Everton. Keep up the great work. Disney World advice. What do you have? Because I know the answer to this on some level, but you and your wife especially have some great advice on this, because we are making our first trip to Disney World, Florida this summer, and have talked to your wife about this.
Yeah,
just on this past Sunday.
Yeah, she has. I mean, she's kind of a logistical master, so like, I don't want to take much credit for any of the success or failures of this advice, but it worked for us. Certainly, we went 3 years ago when our kids were a little younger. They're 7 and 5 now. We're actually going back in next month, and so we. But regardless, I think there's a couple of things that are really important here. One, my thing is this: it is a sunk cost. You got to remember that whatever you paid to get in there, whatever you were doing, decide how many parks you're going to, do not try to get bang for your buck anywhere, because be prepared to quit and hit the pool at all times. Okay. You got to be willing to hit the eject button. You can't be 3 hours in to Magic Kingdom and everybody is losing it and crying and you're in the fetal position in the corner because nobody's happy, and be like, no, this is our park day. Okay. We are riding these rides because we said we were going to, and we paid for these tickets. No, hit the eject button, go to the hotel pool and regroup. Just be confident to do that at all times, and know that you've got to be able to abandon your plans if it's just not your day, because it's going to happen. One of these days at one of these parks is just not going to be your day if you're going around with kids. That's my number one thing. That was kind of my philosophy going into it, and it works really well if you just have that mentality. The other side of that is you got to remember that this trip is not about you, or maybe it is, but you got to remember who it's for. Okay. At all your decisions that you make should be remembering who it's for. Okay. Is it for your kids? Every decision you make needs to be like, what would make the kids happy? What do we got? Because there's going to be a lot of those. There's just no way that everybody's going to be happy. It's just not going to happen. You can't make everybody happy in Disney World. You're not going to do it. So just know that if it's about your kids, make all the decisions that will make your kid happy and live off the fact that it made your kid happy. That's the thing. And the other part of that is, remember, especially on the younger side, if they're not into all the big time rides or whatever, for the most part, the thing that kids say afterwards when they're surveyed about what they remember about their trip to Disney is they remember the hotel pool and the characters. Okay. So don't get super caught up in like, got to ride this, get in the lines and all that. We got to make sure we get the lightning lane and ride all these rides. They remember the pool and they remember the characters. So just keep that in mind, and then keep yourself focused on that. And remember to always be willing to hit the eject button, and you should have a great time. Can't lose.
I mean, the kids will probably also remember the F-bombs that any dad drops when they take one bite out of a $12 hot dog. Like that'll be something they remember. So you got to keep that. That's my thing I'm trying to keep in check during this trip.
Yes. If you can use the order ahead online, always be trying to order online and ahead. Obviously, you got to make sure you have your reservations and all that stuff. I won't go down that wormhole, but like if you're ever without a meal and you see anything, there's an online ordering process that can help you somehow avoid madness. So also keep an eye on that.
Figure out the apps, and all of our listeners should be
live in
good
the
on
app.
that. Yeah. If you're listening to podcasts regularly, you know how apps work. Go ahead, go onto your favorite podcast app right now. Give us a good review of this show. Do the things that help us, of course, and then you can figure out your Disney app and you'll have a good trip.
Do you have any Disney thoughts? Are you nervous? Are you like are you worried? Are you
I'm
feeling that this
nervous
is a
from the
bad idea?
standpoint of like, so my kids are not big character kids, but they're big Star Wars kids, which you wouldn't
Mm.
expect having a trio of girls, but they're super into that. So that's going to be a big hit. As to the rest of it, I'm a little wobbly because one of them is super psyched about the trip. She loves to ride stuff. Her older sister is already saying things like, I would rather just go to the beach. I don't need a trip to do. I'm like, well, if you're going to start saying that, this beach trip is like 1/4 the cost. So let's just do the beach, you know? But this is going to be the one time that we do it. So we'll go all out. We'll make it fun for them and just not try and think about how much money we wasted on the trip. They're already talking about what souvenirs they want, and we're getting lightsabers, we're getting this, we're getting that.
If it's going to be about like the princess dresses or things that they're going to be wanting to buy when they get down there, if you can preemptively strike on that before you go, get the like Target princess dress, okay, so they don't even think about buying one of those when they get down there. Anything you can buy ahead of time and get away with it and say you've already got one, you're going to want to do that because you do not want to be paying the Disney prices if you don't have to. Also, the you gotta like every place has every Facebook. You can find these crazy Facebook groups. My wife has found Smart Moms Plan Polynesian Facebook group, which is like we're staying at the Polynesian. So anything you need to know about what's going on at the Polynesian, which currently there's a lot of controversy over a construction in a splash pad zone and how long that's going to last. A lot of concern, but you can get into the grimy details in these Facebook groups. So search for those, find those if you can.
I think my biggest piece of advice would be don't have 3 kids, because that is what moved us from a 1 hotel room to a 2 hotel room family. And getting that second bathroom is essential for 3 kids. So, keep your family smaller. It's way more affordable. That's my Disney advice.
No question. Great advice in general. Love that. All right. Appreciate it. I guess we'll be back next week. We'll have Al Golden press conference on Monday with the mock off-season worksheet. We'll be out. We'll start really diving into some of the roster logistics and all that stuff. And of course, keep sending your questions to the Growler Podcast at gmail.com and ambush Mark. We need more ambush of Mark that happens here. I like when that happens. So, all right. Thanks everybody for listening, and we'll talk to you next time. Have a good one.